say if you can do it in a few units, how can you imagine? Ideally, the world is a branchless kind of a banking. But in India, the physical touch and feel will always be reality. That story will be out. And here we are actually exploring the classical traditional thing, people, process, technology. Experience of the person, like I told you, the CX and the EX, the processes which are involved, how can we reimagine the process, not just automate or digitize it, but reimagine it to a different way. And finally, the tech, which is where our partners and this fantastic open system economy that is driving will play a big role. Let me just spend a few minutes on what has been our personal experience when it comes to all this looks glamorous, 30,000 feet level perspective, but when it comes to the ground, how do you get a 32,000 member team starting to believe in automation, starting to believe that this is the way to do it? Because when you start a new bank, usually getting people from various organizations. Each one of them comes with a mindset of their own, what they have done there, how is the credit underwriting process done, how do you onboard a customer. I am comfortable with a certain origination technology or with a core banking technology. When you get people of different types, how do you put this roadmap of where are we going and what are we doing? So this is how we look at it. I think Shiva again mentioned in a very different perspective. We look at it on one side as very task-oriented activities which are very low from a value, unit value perspective, but gives a dramatic, it releases a lot of bandwidth if we have the abilities to automate it. So volume heavy, repetitive, structured, silo tasks. One of the legacies of the assembly line mechanism which I think the banking industry has followed, that seems to be usually the first place where people start looking at it. Very simple unit economics, reduce the cost per transaction, increase the productivity per person, release people from humdrum repetitive work into doing much more intelligent stuff, much more engaging stuff. So that's typically all of us have found success. In my mind, this is what, 7, 8 years old. Even right from the first time you did a front end on your website where a crawling engine will go and bring it out quickly and communicate it in the form of a chat or in the form of a search query, no problems. I think we are very much there. And I think if I'm not mistaken, Rahul, we do roughly around 3.5 lakh transactions of much added value across all the three, but that is still the biggest chunk of the story. Let's come to the use case targeted opportunities. This is where I think we have progressed as we speak along. This combination of, let's say, a front-end CRM like a Salesforce, combined with a back-end like a ServiceNow, which is a ticket managing tool, and then bring together a process automation mechanism which has the ability to tie up both, which is what I meant by saying above the bus and below the bus. Becomes a very different way of looking at things. So this is where I think intelligence is needed, not just from a tech perspective, but for the user to get excited and say, what is the BRD that I'm writing? What is the problem that I'm trying to solve? Is it just a 3-hop process or is it a comprehensive end-to-end? So suddenly the word process becomes a sort of a so-so, and this word journey, I know it's a bit of a isn't, but a journey suddenly defines how can I think of what a consumer is wanting to do. Let me give you an example. We do get a lot of customer complaints pertaining to foreclosure of loans. A customer has taken a mortgage or an auto wheeler and he wants to close the business because suddenly he has come through money and he doesn't want to extend the loan anymore. Typically the process today is a very painful process because the customer has to call us or walk into a branch, show us a statement, somebody in the operations team is checking what are the balances which are still left, are there charges which are levied which he has not paid, and then finally it lands up in the ops shop where a process gets completed and done. Who are the departments involved? There is a front-end branch, there is a call center, there is an operation unit and a business unit which is screaming and saying, yeah, don't allow them to foreclose because it's a book that is going down. There are conflicting theories. Imagine picking that up as a journey, finding out, putting a data model on top of it saying, there are some customers who I prefer that they foreclose, some customers whom I want to keep for a longer time, and can I reduce the rate? A lot of intelligence suddenly comes into this end-to-end journey. It's no more a process of foreclosure as defined in a traditional standard operating process, which can be automated. Very simple. Pick up the SOP, do a BRD, give it to the tech team or the COE and they will make it happen. But suddenly when you're thinking about it on an end-to-end basis, the key objectives and the results are very different. So that's what I mean by the central, very heavy, structured processes with a reasonable amount of dimensions. Still not completely open-ended, but I could pick up maybe 30 scenarios, 40 scenarios. How do I pick up for these 40 scenarios? Where does RPA play a role? Where does data modeling play a role? Where would the front-end journey, what are the options that I would give to him so that the customer is interacting or the employee is interacting? So very different ball game that's happening. And the last one is the value-heavy structured journeys, a typical treasury operation. Operations are not huge, but when it happens, it's a big one. My ability to access their, who gets what access. Am I able to create a log so that the regulator or the auditor is completely happy about the integrity of the transaction? So, where you use a combination of AI, some RP, and some actual workforce redesign. How do our people think about it differently? How can I do a constant automated tracking of these scenarios?